everybody, this is Kodak here, and we are going to be doing, for the first time in a while, a Bakugan video. Although I guess we did one sort of towards the end of the year, but I haven't done as many Bakugan videos as I had previously imagined I would be doing. But anyway, Bakugan, the reboot, the Battle Planet reboot, has reached its 4th year. That's actually as far as the original Bakugan got. So we're going to see just how far we can get with that. So anyway, the new set is called Bakugan Evolutions. It, like the Mectanium Surge, is incorporating a bunch of metal pieces into the actual Bakugan, and it is also implementing small pieces with nano in their name. So in this case, what we have is True Metal Nillious, the Platinum Power-Up Pack. So we get a chance to take a look at both new gimmicks coming out this season, the metal body as well as the new Nanogan. And this one down here, it has the gold logo. Does that mean that this is like a diamond or elemental one? Either way, that would be a fun find to get in here. Anyways, the first year follow-up that they did for Battle Planet, I actually thought was really good. It came out with the Baku Gear and the Fusions, which both offered a new card type that expanded the depth of the gameplay, and the Fusion Bakugan added consistency, as even though they didn't tend to be as cost-effective as Evo cards, that was offset by constantly having them in their hand. The most recent setup, though, last year, the big gimmick was Geogan, which were made in the spirit of the old Bakugan traps, in that they are, but they didn't really work so well in the actual game, because what they did was they essentially acted as pinch hitters, and they were usually pretty expensive for having to have the card in your hand, and usually were just something that an Evo card could probably do better, because Evo cards are permanent. I honestly thought these were kind of a flop. They didn't really make any like good toolboxy ones, like that when you play them they do some kind of cool beneficial effect, like allowing you to scry cards from your deck or rearrange cores, or like if there was an effect that like allowed you to flip cores over that were on the field so that you could see what they actually did, that might be useful. You could use that to glean information on what your opponent has set down, maybe a bit of their strategy. You know, if they had more of those incomparable effects, I honestly think Geogan would have been better. But this year we are having support pieces that, even though they are named Nano, which would imply they're like the Baku Nano, they're called Nanogans, which the original Baku Nano were like little one-shot pieces that what you do is you attach them and they offer like a small bonus to what you attach them to, and they would be one-shots unless you use them on either these things called Mectagan, which were a big pain in the butt. They were basically action figures, not terribly thrilling from a gameplay stance, or if you use them on a gate card that matched the colors. Gate cards came in gold, silver, and copper, and like this would be a copper Baku Nano. They kind of started to represent the big flaw with the original Bakugan game, in that when these were introduced, it meant that there were more support pieces than actual Bakugan in the game. Although these Nanogan are a little different. They are also supposed to be one-shots. You're limited to 3, which means you have as many Nanogan as you have regular Bakugan, which also, when combined with the Geogan, isn't quite as fun. They say you don't need these for the game, but honestly, I kind of like that tactile experience of actually plunking something down onto the playfield. It's one of the reasons I liked the original Battle Gear, was not only did you have that satisfaction of just plunking it down and watching it go, but they actually had like a gimmick where they attach onto certain Bakugan that have the pegs for it, so you're like powering them up, kind of like with the old, the Baku Gear in this game. But these things are functionally similar to Battle Gear. As the original Battle Gear, they were set to the side and they had like a special card that you used with them, and you could activate their effects depending on whether you match the gate card color. Again, this one would work on a copper card, or match the attribute. In this case, you have to match the attribute to include them in your deck, but it's actually the cores that they have picked up that determine whether or not you can use them. And these are truly, genuinely one-shots, and we're gonna get a good look at both the corresponding Chaos Nano Riptide and this apparently either Diamond or Elemental Nano Chrysalin. So we're gonna get to take a good look at this. Although, that's right, one thing I forgot to mention last year was the Mythic Mythic? Yeah. The Mythic type was, these were sort of similar to the translucent Bakugan from the original game. In the original game, translucent Bakugan were essentially one of the strongest types, as they combined the powers of both regular Bakugan and clear Bakugan. What clear Bakugan did was they take on the attribute of the opponent. And with a translucent Bakugan, that is, it still has all the paint and color, and the color, sort of the translucent plastic, sort of like with Crystalline here, was you could choose whether to keep your original attribute or whether to match the attribute of your opponent. And that was a huge amount of flexibility that made these things really, really good. Pearls were also a thing. Pearls were pretty nice in that you could retain the attribute of the Bakugan, but gain the highlighted bonus, which in some cases was the most powerful one. There were a lot of interesting special treatments. The ones that really stuck were, the one that really stuck was translucent. That was the one that stuck, I think, the best. But in the case of the Mythics, what they are supposed to be is, I guess, retrains of the original Bakugan. In the case of Pegatrix here, it's the same art, which means I assume this is meant to work with all of the Evo cards of the original Pegatrix. The thing is, this Pegatrix retrain uses the magic shields, while the original Pegatrix was sort of built entirely around using regular fist. It gained a power-up when it picked up a regular fist, its Evos also gained power-ups when it picked up regular fist, and it was designed to combo with cards like Mega Punch and Holy Flame to get some early aggression. In this case, it's a lot of, like, weird icons. Let's see if the camera can grab this. It's a lot of weird, like, little icons on the card here. Instead, it has like a little R, which I assume means reroll once on a miss, and then Magic Shield, it has core minus. So I assume that means on reroll, you can reroll once on a miss, and if you pick up a Magic Shield, you kick your opponent's core. That is a good effect. I do still wish that it could have been regular fist that had this effect, because in that case, that complements the original Pegatrix and its strategy a whole lot better. It's an interesting application. Kicking the core from an opponent is an important way of dealing with things like, I believe it was Aurelus Hydronoid or Cubbo. Kicking their core was how you brought them back down to Earth. So a good effect. I do wish it felt more like a Pegatrix retrain. But anyway, let us get a look at the contents of this box. First, let's have a close-up look at what we have here. So we have our True Metal Nillious. I can see there's kind of a pearlescent sheen coming off of the white portions of the body. They've changed up the color. This is actually like a reverse one, like a reverse color scheme, like you'd sometimes see in the original Bakugan. Reverse color scheme in the game actually didn't really mean anything. It was just a cool upgrade, but this looks like a reverse color scheme, as its primary color is the light blue as opposed to the white, and the white is limited to the body. And then we have our Nanogan over here. We have Riptide, which looks like it's the regular Chaos color scheme, so maybe I do have something special in this little setup here. And the Crystalline, which has a gold label, and usually a gold label indicates that there's something special about this, so I guess this is either supposed to be a diamond or an elemental. What I am still going to be opening them up to show off, but it's kind of neat. This is actually like the only set of this kind, this platinum power-up sets, that were in my local Target when I went to go look for these things. But it was, I guess it was good fortune that I got a Chaos set, because you know me, I'm the Chaos boy. So it includes the 3 Bakugan, which I assume is the regular plus the nanos. Although it looks like these little Nanogans can take a ride on this thing's back, kind of similar to how the Bakugear would do it. 2 cores, which I assume is meant to go with the character, and 4 cards. So we're going to have, obviously, the character card for you. We're going to have the support cards for these 2, and then 1 more, which I guess is going to be a card from the new set, which, if I have, if anything I've said about these sets sunk in, will involve this Nillious doing something cool. So, quick peek on the back. Gives us a look at what we're looking at here. So we have our Nillious, our Riptide and Crystalline, and pop open Baku Action, which has an image which appears to be one of these Nanogan riding on the back of what we have here. So they are, I guess, designed to work similar to these. They operate like a little buddy. They said it's optional to include these in the actual game, but I like how these things go. Oh, I see. Up here, one of those cards is going to be the gate card, so we get the gate card plus the cores in the same deck. I actually kind of like that tactile feel of deploying these creatures into play. I honestly think they're neat. But anyway, we also, of course, every version is now international, so we have a bajillion translations of each one all the way down. It does make this back kind of a pain to look at. But anyway, now let us get this thing open. Not quite as equilateral as I hoped, but this allows us to take a look at the cards. One thing I do have to comment, though, about the Nanogan cards is they have the same card back as a card that goes in the deck. I honestly worry that's going to be kind of confusing since these are supposed to be cards that get set aside. The Battle Gear actually had a separate color. They had, I believe, a blue back in order to contrast with the red backs of the gate cards and the ability cards. But anyway, here is our setup here. We have Platinum Nillious, which actually has its own fancy declaration. I don't know if the inverted color scheme is part of its platinum-ness, but it's certainly a thing. But yes, it is metal here. I don't know, I'd have to bring it closer to the microphone here, but you can get kind of the hollow tick of the plastic, but you get like the solid thud of me tapping the metal there. So this central part is indeed metal. We have a 506 that upon grabbing Magic Shield gives you plus 200, and that gets you 1350, which is, it's not great. Although I do have to notice that these Nanogan that it came with don't really complement it too well. Like this one over here uses Hex for its power-up, which Hex and Fist for their power-ups, which don't really cooperate too well with Platinum Nillious here. Anyways, the Nanogan, what they do is they have one of two abilities, and this is dependent upon the cores being held by your entire team. Although, I think that throws off their usefulness, if I'm being entirely honest, because you need to be in the lead in order to have enough cores to benefit from this. So it doesn't really operate too well as a comeback mechanic. Also, it might just be because these are the international versions, but I was hoping that these things would have other effects, like maybe ones that allow you to like draw cards or flip over cores or look at your opponent's hand or something. Those I think would be a bit better. So looking at these are technically one-shots. I guess the idea is they're balanced out by not costing any energy to use. My proposal for a support piece was that you have them set up and you pay their energy cost and you can flip them over to be ready for use. So basically you can pay their cost up front and save them for when you need them. That I honestly think would be a more interesting mechanic, and then you flip them back down after you use them and you have to pay to recharge them again. That I honestly think would be a better thing to do, because that's what everybody would do at the end of their turn. They'd start arming and priming their special things here. These I don't think work quite as well. This one down here gives a bonus of 2,500 if you have a Hex, a normal Fist, and a Shield on your team. Not only do you have to have a big mix of things, but you'd have to have 3 cores active. So this is really only useful if you are getting ready to perform a team attack, and the 2,500 might not be that useful for a Pyrus deck, as most Pyrus decks, to my understanding, run damage win decks, where whichever one has the highest damage is the one who wins the fight rather than B power. So I don't know how much more useful this thing could be. I mean, I guess if you combine it with cards like Consort and Mega Punch, then maybe this thing can have some potential, but otherwise it seems really awkward. And then Nano Riptide, which requires Magic Shield and Fist for just plus 500. I mean, for a free one-shot, that's not too bad. I guess that works well with like the Chaos Aggression with like the Pegatrix I was working with. But like I said, like with the Geogan, I was hoping for like some more, you know, just straight up aggressive, like some more like utility for these things. I think that would make these things a lot more interesting. Like Vylantor was basically considered the best battle gear because it allowed you to change the battlefield ones for free. And since this one in particular works on copper cards tend to be the tricky ones where the opponent does some kind of dirty trick in order to win, and this can force them to swap out into a straight fight, back over to a gold card or a silver card, which are pretty much only straight fights. So that's what made Vylantor the most powerful battle gear, was because it had a utility effect rather than its rather than its power boost necessarily. All right, so here we have our Nanogan. So we can take a good look at these up close, and these things are actually kind of interesting. They actually remind me of the B1 Bakugan. Now the B1 Bakugan were from back in the day. They were the original Bakugan, which were a lot smaller in size than the regular Bakugan. So this here is it's Tigrera. They were a lot more simple, a lot more basic in their design, but they were basically the size of a regular marble shooter, and they were the like I said, they were the original Bakugan to be released. So oddly enough, while the Battle Planet Bakugan are larger than the original Bakugan, the Nanogans are actually smaller than the original B1 Bakugan. Although there's a pretty clear reason for this, and that is because they actually don't contain magnets. Yes, these things are not, they don't have a magnet to transform. Instead, they actually have to be unfolded entirely by hand. So this is clearly like a cost-saving, design-saving measure. I don't really have a problem with that idea at all. This guy actually, they're actually on joints, so you can bring the claws down to match. So this is what our transformed Nanogan look like. Is we have our little Crystalline crab here. I guess I can bring the head back up to make him look a bit more aggressive. And then we have, oh, that's Riptide, and then we have Crystalline is the one I'm holding here. This I guess elemental Crystalline. It's a couple of little feet. Ah, there we go. So it's sort of a, there we are. So it's sort of a Mothra design. So there are our Nanogans. They're pretty simple, although they're still pretty fun in how they transform. They kind of remind me of for a while, for Transformers Robots in Disguise, the sequel to Transformers Prime, they had like these little Transformers that sort of transformed in a similar way and were meant to be attached to other Transformers to give them power-ups and stuff like that. Very clear homage to the original Bakugan, but like I said, they're pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Keeps the cost down. I imagine that these things at some point will receive like some kind of checkout or small release, like a way to have like a really cheap way to get into Bakugan is to be able to just collect these little guys straight up. So like I said, very straightforward design. We have our Crystalline, who's sort of our Mothra, or I guess if it's supposed to be fire, I guess more of a Batra type, isn't it? Like I said, this is like either supposed to be a diamond or an elemental one based on the gold symbol it has here, and Chaos Riptide, Chaos Nano Riptide, which is just, you know, it's a shrimp with the little, or I guess it might be more like, I guess it's supposed to be more of a lobster with these big old claws here, some kind of prawn, crayfish, something, because it's got like the tail here. But yep, amusing little creatures. But of course we have our main attraction, and that is, of course, our Platinum Nillious. So like I said, we have our inverted color scheme, it seems. We have the plastic pieces, which are the light blue, and then the metal parts, which are the white components. Anyway, these metal parts, I assume they're made out of, they might be made out of iron, but I'm guessing they're probably made out of zinc or some other kind of non-magnetic metal. Yeah, it doesn't respond here, because otherwise it would be constantly popping itself open. So pretty basic here. Kind of reminds me a lot of the Mectanium Surge design, with how all of the additional line work, all of the additional painted on details, they're all silver in that metallic sense. That's how they did it in Mectanium Surge as well. So anyway, let's get this thing open. And there we have it. There is our Platinum Nillious fully unfolded and unleashed. I have to say that these metal ones have a lot of momentum to them, and since Bakugan are rolled simultaneously, for players who play aggressively and try to like knock away their opponents to prevent them from landing on cores, this thing would be a very effective and brutal method of doing that. We're going to see a new age of blocked shots with these metal ones going in place. Anyway, pretty straightforward here. We have our three heads. Normally this would be like Normally this would be like where our arms would probably go. We do have some little sculpted arms underneath here, which have been painted blue despite being part of the metal. But yeah, pretty straightforward design. It's something I pointed out earlier, was that the accents are painted on in metal, which was also something that happened in the original Bakugan Mechtanium Surge, although it also has this big fat tail which is meant to hold everything together. Let's see, where is the number on this guy? I don't think it would be on the metal. You'd think it would be on one of the plastic pieces. There it is. It's just not easy to see because it uses the white ink, which does not contrast very well against this light blue. But yeah, there it is, 500. Same with the attribute logo. You'd think they would have opted to use the black ink on this part because the light blue, the white does not contrast well against that light blue at all. But anyway, it's a straightforward design. It is a basic Bakugan. It's a bit more complex than your typical basic Bakugan, but we have our Nillious here, and it's fold up. They've actually, it looks like it's really complicated to fold up, but they've actually one of the things they focused on in the second year, which I really liked, was they focused on making these things easier to put away. It is a full transformation. There's nothing that you need to fold out or anything, but what you do is you tuck in the tail first, and then these wings, if you fold them in, they actually kind of bring the heads down with them, so that's not too hard. You have to fold in these feet though, but you can just hold on to the wings, which keeps everything else in place, and then you finish off with the head. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward thing to fold back together. And like I said, the metal means that this thing has some pretty ferocious momentum when it's rolled. So I expect to see a lot of, you know, when the simultaneous rolls happens, I expect to see a lot of aggression with these things being put into play going forward. And of course, how could we finish our look at this box without also looking at the checklist? So this is the first time we are able to look at a Bakugan Evolutions checklist. There were sadly no rules papers included with this thing, not even on the back of the chest, the checklist. So now we have the Prisma Dragonoid. So we have a new rarity here, I guess, to go on with the elemental things. I'm also seeing what I guess is supposed to be. So there's the Diamond Neo Dragonoid. Diamond Colossus. I don't know if we have like labels for elemental in here. I assume that's what this Dragonoid is. This Sectonoid, this Sectonoid and Dragonoid. I assume this little gleam on here is supposed to be elemental. I've shown off a couple of elementals here where they have like some additional painting details. This looks like a classic Hyderus. A lot of these look like a number of these look like things we've seen before. There's Leonidas. We've been waiting for him for like a decade easily. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of things from like year 2. That are coming out pretty common. Like we have the Trox year 2, we have the Halcor year 2, Pegatrix year 2, a lot of reprints, I guess, to help make it easier for people to find them. And we have the Nanogan up here. We have the Nano Chrysalin listed here as darkest, but I don't see like any kind of diamond labeling down here. They've brought back the Geogan. I assume these are the ones that combine or only some of them are. Some of these I think combine into like the larger one. I know Ampharog is part of the not too well publicized combination. And for once, I actually see a smaller number of Ultra Bakugan than regular Bakugan. We have a lot of the regular Bakugan, although like I said, these are a lot, for the most part, a lot of them are reprints. Pretty much everything through Trox are all reprints. The rest of these are like new versions of that. And then of course we have the Platinum setup, which for the most part look like they are metallized versions of the regular ones. I'm seeing like the diamonds, and I'm seeing some elementals mixed in there, and the Ultras from the look of it are 100% reprints. So it's gonna be interesting tracking those down. I guess there is a larger focus on the classic, on the smaller ones, because of the special editions that are coming out. Hopefully that will result in like the prices remaining stable or even going down a bit. A small number of Ultras should be pretty easy for me to round them all up. It looks like there aren't any new Ultras this year at all, at least not on here, with the focus being on the true metal and the basics, and I think that's fair. I honestly think that's fair. So We got some more Nanogan up here. I'm gonna see if I can find some more of these. If I'm lucky, I might be able to find some of these more rare ones. Although, like I said, I'm pretty certain this is supposed to be Diamond or Elemental based on its gold label. But yeah, that is a look at Bakugan Evolution's Platinum Nillious. That's a fun little bonus video for you guys. And until next time, this is Kodak signing off.